on sign language. Let's get the show on the expressway. And we kick off our broadcast tonight from the courts, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, chairperson that's Wafula Chebukati, is facing his first major hurdle in the preparations for the August polls after the Kenya Human Rights Commission and 6 other parties moved to the High Court to compel the commission to reintroduce the manual voter register during the election. Now the petitioners claim IEBC acted unilaterally, and the decision to go digital is likely to block millions of voters from voting. But what really prompted IEBC's move? That does the petition portend? What does the petition portend for the elections? Our senior political affairs reporter Murimi Mwangi explains.
Reeling from the September 1st, 2017 Supreme Court nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election, and now facing what could easily be Kenya's most competitive presidential poll, electoral body IEBC has had a critical decision to make regarding identification of voters on election day.
The reason why the commission has decided to use a digital register as opposed to physical register is to prevent certain malpractices that were actually there before.
The IEBC now faces its first hurdle after the Kenya Human Rights Commission moved to the High Court to have the manual register reinstated. In its petition, the Commission says the IEBC decision could disenfranchise voters in instances of software or hardware failure. IEBC had announced that a copy of the voters' register would be loaded in the Kenya Integrated Management System, so that voters whose biometrics fail can be identified by loading the alphanumeric data from their primary identification documents, being the national identity card or passport. But the Commission in a petition now says such a search would fail if the KM's battery is low, or the key is not working, or even when the screen pad malfunctions, or when the kit is unable to load data or is corrupted by malware. Adding that IEBC continues to face the same network challenges it encountered in the 2013 and 2017 polls, thus risks curtailing Kenyans' right to vote due to failed identification. Among notable weaknesses of the manual voter registers that prompted IEBC to go digital after a post-mortem analysis of the 2017 polls was its susceptibility to abuse by rogue electoral officials and poll agents. In instances where electoral officials collude with rogue voters, a person could vote more than once through double identification through the KM's kit and separately through the manual register. According to the IEBC, use of the manual register had also created a potential avenue for impersonation of voters, where a person other than the real registered voter is identified manually on account of mismatch of biometric data on the KM's kit. In extreme instances of collusion, some poll experts argue that a manual register leaves room for rogue polling clerks to exaggerate voter turnout by crossing out names of persons who in real sense did not vote, and marking out the ballot papers in favor of a preferred candidate, loopholes which could somewhat explain anomalies reported at the 2017 Supreme Court petition, where some polling stations reported higher turnouts for presidential election compared to other elective seats. IEBC now forced to defend its decision to go digital in the wake of demands from the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga-led Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition for clarity on the complementary voter identification mechanism the Commission would deploy at the polls.
The fact is, the digital register is the same register as what would be on the hard copy register. So the fear that voters will be turned away, that's not true. Nobody will be turned away so long as they have an ID and they are registered.
The previous elections, you have heard of dead voters voting. Previous elections, including the 2013 most controversial election, presidential election, we had a minimum of 7 registers, including another one called Green Register. So I support the idea of one register which is in the law, an electronic way of identifying voters.
In 2017, approximately 2.5 million voters were identified with the manual register after verification of their data failed due to damaged fingerprints and exposure of the KM's kit to extreme weather elements. Concerns over the coming polls further compounded by the fact that some 1,200 polling stations, representing approximately 1 million people, are not connected to 3G and 4G network, which could complicate transmission of poll results. This despite IEBC's pledge to deploy satellite gadgets. And no doubt the IEBC remains on the spotlight as the Chebukati-led team prepares to redeem the commission from ghosts of the botched 2017 polls. Murumi Mwangi, KTN News.
Well, still in court, Nairobi Senator and Governor Hopeful Johnson Sakaja has filed